Let's do it live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. We have another episode. First of all, like I want to say sorry for not showing up last week. We were in BTC Prague. I think Joe and I were there, and it was just like very busy. And I was like, let's do it next week again after the craziness of being in Prague, which kind of was crazy to see a Bitcoin conference. And I was talking with the organizer. They sold this year more tickets than last year in the bull market. I was like, that's fucking awesome. So I don't know, but like Joe was also there. Like I didn't notice the bear market at all there. And it kind of inspired my title for today of Bitcoin went down to, I think the lowest was 59K. I don't know, now we had like 66 or something like that. And the smart people, the people that like actually pay attention, they call it the value accumulation zone. It's the best period to buy. And I can't wait in like 1 year to look back at all our clips in 1, 2, 3, even 10 years to go all our clips and to watch like this episode, last episodes, and like the episodes before, like, see, guys, we've told you. I can really wait for that. Before we get into all the topics, I want to just quick shout out our main chat. As always, we have it right here. I wanted to prepare it, but then I said, let's do it live. Here we are. This is the main chat. Oh, we don't even see. Let's press here.
Why it's in there.
Yeah, that's the BTC Mastermind channel, the main channel. We're on the cusp of getting to 1,000 subscribers, which is fucking awesome. So thank you so much for everyone that is showing up, going there, checking out our main channel. This is the main thing where we want to conclude. The main motivation for that is that everyone is in one chat, and I actually seen that most of the chats that come together is now slowly moving to the main chat and less like distributed on like Rashad's channel, my channel, Brandon's channel. Like it's just like more segregated and central, which will be really cool to see how this shakes out in the long run. But yeah, show up here, go to BTC Mastermind if you want to join the main chat. I will also try to bring up the chats and the questions and all those things from the main chat to kind of incentivize to go there. So yeah, that's all for me. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Actually, back to what you were saying before, I would love to see what happens in a year or two when people see our comments. And I talk about that in my videos. I always try to mention that. I try to drop that. Hey, if you're watching this video in like 2027, 2029, 2031, leave a comment and tell us what the price of Bitcoin is. Because in my videos, I always put the price of Bitcoin at the top right. And because of that, it's like, oh, now the video at the time of this recording, it was at 60K. Now it's at 120K. If I listened to this guy, then I would have, maybe now I should listen to him. Maybe now I should figure out what he's, and I think that's what our content is going to look like. I think it's going to age very, very well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there's a lot of these legendary videos of people saying, like, there's that whole guy Da Vinci. Do you guys know this guy?
Oh yeah, the $1.
He like scams people. He like talks about meme coins. It's unbearable. But he's basically made an entire career because at one point he said, buy $1 worth of Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin was at $1, and he made a YouTube video about it. And it's a great video, and it like holds up super well. And he's been able to make a huge like career basically out of doing that. I don't know how he still has a career after what he's done now, but you know, it does sort of put that, it's like a clay tablet or like a, you know, put it in stone kind of thing when you post your thoughts online, and it's going to hold up really well. You know, Bitcoin is up and to the right over time, and it's all people looking back at these videos that we make. They're going to see, hopefully they'll have listened actually, and then they'll be right there with us.
There's a lot of capital chasing a lot of different things right now, because it seems like a lot of Bitcoiners who are the tourists, we call them, are not so satisfied with the fiat price of Bitcoin. But it's be interesting. I see some comments already, including SpaceX over Bitcoin. And if you're still thinking that SpaceX is a better use of capital for you, then I think you're just missing the whole point of what Bitcoin is. because they're not comparable. They're two different things. Bitcoin's a unit of measurement. It's going to be, you're going to see what the price of SpaceX shares in 10 years priced in Satoshis. So they're two different things. One is the underlying thing that's going to reprice the entire world that nobody can create more of or issue more of or stop or control, or CEO gets fired or whatever, different things. So it takes a lot of time for people to get that understanding. But I just think having shows like this every week helps instill it in people, because I say it all the time, but I had to listen to Jeff Booth say the same thing 20, 25 times over and over again before it really clicked. And it still seems like some days don't still understand it, but I'm working towards it. And I think that that's the main thing. So shout out to everybody who's in the live chat today, in the main chat. And it's a great time to be in Bitcoin. It's just, I don't know what more you could ask for, honestly.
I think every time Jeff Booth talks, he just like gives some knowledge, some nugget of information that it just changes my perspective of the world. So exactly what you said, it took me a long time to hear what he was saying. I had to read the book. It took me a long time to really figure out what he was trying to say. I actually wanted to say, would you guys want to do a quick analysis of SPC, SpaceX versus Bitcoin? I have this spreadsheet here that shows all of the risks of stocks, and I think this could be pretty interesting, getting you guys input on this. Maybe I can share my screen if you guys are okay with that.
Let's do it. Yeah,
I would love that. I have a few very strong opinions on that, so let's get into it.
One thing that's really interesting about it is I think there's only 5% of the shares in float right now. I think that should be understood prior to analyzing it at all, is that there's an incredibly small amount of actual shares being traded right now. So people are evaluating this company at whatever 2+ trillion, but only 5% of the shares are actually trading. And it's expanded the entire market cap based off of this tiny amount that's trading and being pushed up like crazy because of hype. I mean, options get on it, I think, at the end of this week or maybe today or something like that. The insider unlock is 15 days after it came out. Like this is, if you're messing with this, like, you are playing with fire. There are so many like day-to-day changes happening to this, and it should be a trading tool for people at this point. Like it's insane to like actively evaluate this company with all the changes that are happening to the structure of the shares on the market.
Yeah. Didn't they make like 16 billion in revenue or yeah, I think revenue, and they lost like 5 billion in total for net profits or net losses?
Yeah.
And they're still valued at like 2.5. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's something like that. And it's the like, there is no earnings because it's negative earning company. And then its price to revenue is like 300x or something like that. It's like the most like, what's crazy about that too is like, fundamentally there are some amazing things that this company's doing. There are some aspects of it that are awesome, and 10 years down the line it's going to be one of the best companies to own. But right now it's such an insane thing to hold in the meantime until it becomes what it could become.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I think the Bitcoin has been repricing everything for many years now. It'll reprice SpaceX shares, but I just think the fundamental aspect of Bitcoin is that you can take full sovereignty with it, and you can do that. And it's, you can listen to all these different analysts and all these different people talking about the revenue, the potential of SpaceX, what it could be in the future. But it's partially speculative. But even if all of those things turned out to be true at some point in the future, that still doesn't change the fact that it's a company. It's still tied directly with that whole fiat world. And it's reliant on many things here. And I think that what Rajat's about to explain here, it doesn't matter what stock we're talking about here. This could be NVIDIA, this could be SpaceX, this could be Apple. These are fundamentally different things because they don't give you the same level of freedom and sovereignty that Bitcoin does. And so it might outperform Bitcoin over the next couple of years or even the next decade. I doubt it does. But eventually, on the other side of this transition that we're living through right now, it's going to be repriced in Satoshis. And Satoshis are the only thing that you can actually own truly. And so I'm interested to see what the comparison here is between stocks and Bitcoin in self-custody. I think we should kind of elaborate on that a little bit, because I see some comments in the chat about IBIT and ETFs and things like that. That's still part of the fiat system. We're talking about holding Bitcoin in self-custody that you have the keys to. Because Bitcoin, I know we kind of like to throw around just the Bitcoin thing, but it's important to note that we're talking about Bitcoin in self-custody here, because that's the difference maker here, to me anyways.
Yeah, if you have Bitcoin in an ETF, you're basically just holding a stock.
Exactly.
All those risks that come with stocks come with your Bitcoin in that case. So what this spreadsheet is basically it just goes through a bunch of risks that are associated with stocks, and I wanted to see if they affect Bitcoin as well. So the first one here, I'll explain it, and then maybe we can get all of our thoughts. So market risk, overall market fluctuations, but this is based on like economic downturn. So let's say, for example, there's a recession, there's people just don't want to invest anymore, or whatever it is. Stocks would be impacted by that, and what I mean by that is a company could actually go to zero and then never come back. The stock of a company could go to zero and never come back, and that's happened in the past. But that can't happen to Bitcoin, because no matter what happens, even if the market doesn't want Bitcoin, the next block is still gonna it's still gonna be mined. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree for the most part. I think that if something happened, and I have no idea what this could be, so it's just a complete hypothetical. But
let's say it's like the .com bubble or something, or like something like that happens.
I still think that it could happen where one day, even though the blocks are still going along, there just isn't much interest in it. Like that is a definite risk in the future. I don't know what leads to that. I don't see how that could happen just based on where we are, what we've seen. It's impossible to predict the future, but there could be a day where even if the blocks are still coming in, the Satoshis might actually not have much value in it. So I agree in the sense that it still can't be stopped, but the value of those underlying the Satoshis could still drop significantly if something were to happen, or people just never, understand what's happening here. There's never interest, and it just kind of fades out over time. I think I don't know. What do you guys think on that?
Yeah. I mean, there's always a shiny, there's something shiny in the market, right? There's something shiny to buy. And Bitcoin is sort of, like SpaceX. Bitcoin is ultimately like this evergreen shiny object, but it has moments where it's less popular and just isn't appealing to the market, right? And Bitcoin does not have cash flows. It doesn't have metrics that you can evaluate based on these fundamental investment sort of thesis. And so a lot of it is sort of a speculation of where you think this asset will go in the future, or a use case of having a sovereign asset that is detached from anything else and completely reliable, permissionless, and censorship resistant. So if those attributes of Bitcoin become seen as more valuable, then Bitcoin will raise in price as people want to own that type of asset. So I do think that there's market risk to price, but no market risk to Bitcoin as like a protocol, as protocol dominance, like the dominant crypto layer of the world.
I think, obviously, there are market forces that impact Bitcoin in the short run, maybe in the medium run even. But it's very different to a company. A company has usually a very narrow industry, a very narrow niche, somewhere where they operate in. I mean, there are exceptions of like companies that are so global and so distributed. Like I would think about a Google or like an Apple that like really have a very decentralized market, all of us, or almost. But it's like a very few that are very decentralized. With Bitcoin, it's literally in every single country. It has different buyers there. If companies are struggling, individuals might be doing good, and the other way around. So it's, I don't know if you can like just say yes and no with stocks and Bitcoin, but there is certainly a degree on how resilient Bitcoin is over companies. And actually, with every year going on, this first risk that Rashad mentioned here will get better and better for Bitcoin, because more and more people will understand it, more and more people come in, the floor is moving up, and we just like, I mean, there are just people that just like catch Bitcoin when it's going down. There are people that with dry powder and just like would never leave it under a certain degree. Is like the tweets that we see, like, if Bitcoin drops to $1, I'll buy them all, kind of a thing, you know. It's like and so there, the floor is moving up, and it's less and less bound to markets. But right now, in the short run, it can still be like President Trump comes up, says something, it drops 20%. Like that can still happen. But
I just want to say one thing on that, because I think it's really important to understand the differences in terms of what gives these two things value. So Bitcoin and SpaceX, like what is the fundamental value of holding a SpaceX share? It's that you think that Elon and SpaceX are going to create products and services that will create value into the future, that will have enough of a return to make it worth allocating your capital to that. But what is that for Bitcoin? What's the value for Bitcoin? And Forrest kind of alluded to this. What did you say there, Forrest? Sovereignty, unstoppable money. These characteristics of Bitcoin, these are much more like, I would say, global for sure. They're more inherent within human beings to want more freedom, which Bitcoin solves. Bitcoins don't want to ask, people don't want to ask permission from banks and centralized entities. Bitcoin solves that. So I think that Bitcoin doesn't have much market risk overall. Of course, there's always going to be fluctuations, volatility in the fiat world, because that's just what happens over there. It's always like that, especially when there's so few people who actually understand what Bitcoin is. But I think that as long as people value freedom and sovereignty and being able to cross borders with their wealth and send value across the world without permission, and having a unit of measurement that no central bank or country can create more units and debase, as long as people value those characteristics, Bitcoin will be more and more in demand. But if they ever stop, like if that ever changes, if people just decide that they don't need to send peer-to-peer transactions, or they don't care about being able to actually own something and cross borders or secure it properly without any sort of physical risk of somebody coming and take it from you, as long as humans still value those characteristics, then yes, Bitcoin's going to be fine overall. But if there ever comes a day where people just don't care about that stuff anymore, that would, to me, would be a market risk, because that's when the demand starts dropping in Bitcoin, and the price or the value of those Satoshis start dropping, and then people stop mining, the network gets less secure, and it's just kind of an effect. But I don't think that humans will ever not value freedom and sovereignty, and so I think that Bitcoin will always have that draw. It's just that a lot of people don't understand that Bitcoin gives you that ability right now, so that's why it's so volatile.
Yeah.
And I was writing because like Vale asked, like, do you guys bought any SpaceX? And it's hard because I kind of have to like separate the emotions from my investing mindset and like what I do with my finances, because I'm a huge fan from SpaceX. I'm a huge fan of Tesla. I'm a huge fan of Elon Musk in general. I think he's a net positive for humanity, and I think he pushes a lot of the limits that needs to be pushed. But I don't invest in any of his companies because I think they don't really offer that much upside anymore. I mean, SpaceX is soon a $3 trillion company. The biggest company on planet Earth doesn't have 5 trillion, it's like 4 point something. And so, like, what is the total addressable market for SpaceX? They still have to show that they're extremely profitable, which they aren't at the moment at all. They still have to show the execution, and I already see like this business risk, the interest rate, like all the different risks that like Rashad will go into just in a moment. And so you have all those risks associated with a business that can all go wrong, and at the same time, even if everything goes amazing for SpaceX, what's the total return? Like a 10x? Like, can it go to 30 trillion when gold is currently at 20 trillion? Like you have to be serious asking yourself, like, the immense risk that you're taking on with SpaceX, and then the total addressable market is like 2x or 3x from here. without inflation, of course, like they will go to 30 trillion because we'll print a bunch of money. But like the real upside potential, like if they just get to be the biggest company on planet Earth, they have a 2x from here, which is not that crazy. And if Bitcoin is successful, we are talking 100x from here. I personally think so. So like, do you really want to be in SpaceX? Yeah, I get it. Like I'm a fan. I know Elon Musk is not all good. I know he did a lot of bad things, but I'm just like a fanboy. And like my inner Elon fanboy wants to buy SpaceX and Tesla and like do all this rocket shit. Like, but then I look at the company and I'm like, I cannot touch this. It's overvalued. The risk does not, like the potential reward doesn't justify the massive risk that I see with that business.
There's so much risk. It's so inflated already. Like it's bumping up against these massive companies with massive profits. Elon has been incredibly close to the current regime within America. What happens if they lose the midterms? What happens if a Democrat gets in next election cycle? There will be retributions for that. And I actually suspect that would happen for Bitcoin to some respect as well. There would be sort of some political retributions. But I mean, he's so directly tied with SpaceX to what the government allows him to do. And Bitcoin has that to some degree as it's developed and created so many on and off ramps that are subjected to these things. And, you know, America being sort of the financial powerhouse of the world and hegemony and all that. But ultimately, the network itself does not care about any of that. If you really get back, there's these sort of layers on top that care about these things, and they will get affected by change, similar to stocks would, and all of that. But underneath that, there's this fundamental value proposition of Bitcoin, which is the network that that Jor and I have talked about, that isn't affected by those things. So even if Bitcoin's price gets affected negatively, there's still this bottom where it hits and it just says, I'm going to buy this because I can root around the on and off ramps. I'm going to buy this because I can use it as peer-to-peer money and I can secure it myself. And that creates some floor of people like all four of us and many more that will buy this thing regardless of market risk. The market risk that does exist to some degree on Bitcoin, which we've established is nothing compared to the market risk of investing in stocks, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one here, Bitcoin's not a company, so this one doesn't even matter. I wouldn't even go into this one. It's not a business. It doesn't sell a product. Next one, inflation risk. I think inflation risk kind of affects Bitcoin because people still value it in other, and if there's too much inflation, price might come down temporarily. It affects people's perception of it. But for SpaceX, it would impact it massively because it needs to keep increasing the prices of its products, right, or the services that it offers, and maybe the customers that it have don't want to pay that higher price.
And I think the financing is the big one, right? Like there is sort of a lot of there is some financing that goes into people being able to have extra cash that they raise from financing, and they put that into something like Bitcoin. But that exists as well for the individual investors and institutions for investing in something like SpaceX. But then there's SpaceX itself needing to finance its operations. Like it is not a profitable business as it begins to expand. It's essentially a startup for AI that is destroying its profitability. Like it does have these arms of profitability, and then these parts where it's a net negative on revenue, or on profits. And how are they going to pay? How are they going to pay for a deficit of 5 billion or whatever it is? Well, they're going to raise money. They're going to raise money, and if inflation is high, the Fed is going to keep interest rates higher, and so the cost to raise capital is higher for stocks. And so, yeah, there's definitely inflation risk on financing, on selling the products, on many different fronts.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. Did you guys have any input, Jor or Robin, on this one?
Not really. I mean, inflation is always like inflation is. I think it might actually like inflation might actually be a no for Bitcoin, because it drives asset prices up, kind of thing. Like that's the only thing that I had in there. If it might just be a no because it doesn't have the same inflation risk as like a company with the products and all of that. I mean, you could also argue like if there's crazy money printing, asset prices are also there's this meme going on in COVID where like the Fed printed so much money that Jeff Bezos retired. Like the Amazon was shot so much up. So yeah, like the inflation risk is way more at company level than a Bitcoin level. Absolutely.
Yeah, in terms of inflation, I think it's very hard to compare to Bitcoin because I think that there's really two ways for the price of Bitcoin to go up. What causes the price of Bitcoin to go up? And one of them is obviously inflation. When you create more units of the thing that we measure it in, right, which currently is US dollars, when you print more of those units usually find assets. And so it's real estate, it's the S&P, it's Bitcoin. So they usually inflate. So if you're holding Bitcoin and they print a bunch of money, a lot of that money is going to go into Bitcoin. And so you pretty much just end up breaking even because you're worth more, but still everything around you costs more. So you don't really get ahead just because they print more money and Bitcoin goes up. Because when you go to spend your money, use your purchasing power, things cost more money at that point. So you kind of break even. But the real thing, the real way that Bitcoin goes up in terms of the price is when more people value the things that we were just talking about. As more and more people adopt Bitcoin and join the network and store their wealth in Bitcoin, sell some of their real estate to buy Bitcoin, or sell some of their stocks to buy Bitcoin, that's the real growth in Bitcoin. So I think inflation is pretty much irrelevant in Bitcoin terms. They're too much different systems and networks, so they're not really compatible in that way. But I do think that even if you're a Bitcoiner, you're going to break even. You're not going to lose for the most part, especially over the long term, week to week, month to month. You might be, in the reds, but over time, you're never going to lose just because they print more money in Bitcoin. So to me, that makes it pretty much obsolete. I would agree with Robin that it's not really affected by inflation. But the real thing that you want in Bitcoin is more users, more people using the network, holding Bitcoin, taking self-custody of it. That's what really drives it up, because that's when you have more people wanting the same amount of scarce units. And that's how value rises. That's how purchasing power and price goes up over time. So I would agree with that one.
All right, so we'll change this one to a no then. Next one is interest rate risk. Obviously, Bitcoin's not a company, so it doesn't borrow. The issue with interest rate risk is that if a company borrows, they may have to pay more in interest. And the crazy thing to me is that debt is the only product where the price can change at any time. So they can increase your interest rates at any time, which is wild. Even like when you buy a house in Canada, you have to renew your your mortgage every 5 years. So they can just change the mortgage or the interest rate on the mortgage, which is crazy. Okay, so the next one, political and regulatory risk. I think it affects Bitcoin in a little bit in the short term. Maybe it'll slow down adoption, but over the long term, I don't think it's an issue. Whereas for stocks, it's a huge issue.
Especially SpaceX.
Yes,
because
it's all speculative.
Well, and it's all, where do they get their revenue from?
Right. Oh, is it government contracts? I actually don't know.
It's all government contracts, isn't it? I guess AI is kind of lumped into that. So there would be some sort of actual, right? Like,
they have a consumer business with Starlink that's profitable.
Right. Okay.
But there is a lot of government overlap with the ability to shoot the rockets up for the satellites. Like they have to communicate with the government to be allowed to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at where the majority of Elon's funding began and where it still is, it was with President Trump. And so I think that if things ever flip back to, I don't want to say crazy town, but like much different landscape, I guess, where the Democrats would get back into power. And, who knows what kind of contracts they might, everybody, it seems like, isn't as big a fan of Elon as they were back in 2020 when Biden was in and still giving them money. So that I'd say that's a huge risk in terms of who's in power and how much ability does SpaceX have to get these government contracts. You have Starlink, you have X.AI, but I feel like if you looked at the revenue split of those, I feel like the government contracts would be much larger in comparison to those other revenue streams. I could be wrong about that, but just the sheer magnitude of what those government grants are, I think it's big.
It's a huge risk.
And think about, like, not even for the revenue thing, but just for them to be able to operate a business, they need the permission of the government. Right. I mean, every company does that, but SpaceX has a way higher likelihood that if some government comes here and says, oh yeah, the space thing should not be in a private company, that should be actually kind of a government thing, like it should be kind of like a thing that is under federal law, and they just take it. I mean, we talk about nationalizing strategy. I think SpaceX has a way more higher likelihood of being stopped by the government and being deemed of like too dangerous to be driven by a private person rather than by the public. So just for them to operate that business, I don't think that America is likely that this will happen, but the likelihood is way higher than with any Bitcoin company. And obviously Bitcoin, they can't, like, nobody owns Bitcoin. I mean, there was a funny comment from Wyatt of the Bitcoin servers, which I absolutely loved. I was literally, I couldn't hold laughing. But so SpaceX has a very, very high risk. I think that the 0.5 here would even like point as one of the highest risks for SpaceX specifically, because the government can just shut it down tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think this whole SpaceX thing, like, people will speculate on the space travel, like going to Mars, mining asteroids, data centers in space, all of that. But they basically IPO'd as an AI company. And there's within their disclosure, they had to say there's ongoing litigation and issues around some of the images that Grok made on X. If this doesn't get settled and there really is a political change, they could, I mean, lawfare is 100% a thing. Like, you can just punish people that are political enemies with the law. And there's already ongoing litigation against this company. I think this is that's sort of a risk like years down the road. So most people investing in SpaceX are not even thinking about that, because they're just like, whoa, it went up 20%. I got to get in. It's like serious lizard brain thinking investing in SpaceX right now. Like, that's the only reason to invest in that company, is to just speculate on the price. Like, if you're thinking long term with this thing, you should be waiting. You should be waiting, because right now there's probably like I wouldn't do this, but there's probably better opportunities shorting this thing. It seems crazy to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a comment there, which I want to get into. Someone said, "Oh gosh, my browser is not responding nicely, so it's like super low." I cannot pull it up right now, but someone said, I wouldn't be so quick to think SpaceX is overvalued. They said the same thing about the Google IPO. And I was curious about that. And I was like, okay, let's see what the Google IPO had. The Google IPO was 1.6 billion. So 1.6 billion versus SpaceX is now almost 3 trillion. Plus, I think Google at that time, I'm not 100% sure actually about that, but I think they were actually profitable business at that time when they raised that money. Plus, yes, there is purchasing power of, like, now companies in general are bigger than in 2000 whatever, when did they go out? 2004. They went public apparently in 2004. And so I was like asking the AI, like, okay, how many companies were in front of them? What was the biggest company at that time? And the biggest company at that time was almost 300x bigger than what Google was. Right now, SpaceX is only 2 times, like only half of that, what the biggest company is. So they IPO'd literally this week, and I will show you guys this. It's crazy to even think about that. I'll quickly share my screen, because I really want to hammer that thing down, that it's like not overvalued, but like there's not a lot of room to grow. It's literally number 7 on all the assets on planet Earth. And if you exclude gold and silver, it's number 5 on the IPO week. That is unprecedented. That hasn't happened before. If you compare it to Google had a 300x to the biggest company on planet Earth. SpaceX has not even a 2x to the biggest company on planet Earth. It's just like a massively different game that is being played here. So the runway of SpaceX and how much more runway they have is just like it's just a very different game. I think I hope I made that picture very clear.
Even with Google, it's a little different because I just Googled this. I just searched for that. I just Googled this number for Google. It was their profit at IPO was 106 million, and they had 962 million in revenue. The market cap was 23 billion. So they didn't. I mean, the profit is low. They had a pretty significant amount of revenue compared to even their IPO market cap. Whereas with SpaceX, it's completely off. They're negative. They're losing money. Like, how is this even comparable? It's not even close. It's all. I think now it's more about companies just trying to build a book of clients, and then they can at some point pay up. Like, they can get those clients to pay them. Have you guys read the book Shitification?
No.
So what it is basically it's talking about how platforms first they take advantage of first they serve customers and the market or businesses. Eventually they start taking advantage of customers, then they start taking advantage of the businesses, and then it's all just them taking a cut out of everything. It's like what Meta did, right? It feels like that's exactly what's happening with companies like SpaceX, right? The market is first trying to find a set of customers that it can sell to. And then when it has enough customers and it knows that, oh, we can't fail at this one. That's exactly what's happening with Uber. Like Uber, it was all just funded through debt. They had to build a client list. And then once they have that client list, they can sell them all kinds of shit, right? They can just keep selling them garbage, right? And they know they can keep selling them. And I think that's exactly what people are doing with current companies. They're just trying to speculate on where it's going to go based on its current prospects, and they have no idea if those things are even real. Like there was one comment in the chat here that said it said something like is Google or sorry SpaceX is going to be part of how we get to space or something. Like that's going to be it's going to run the highway of going to space. But keep in mind there's going to be other companies that are going to be doing exactly the same thing. Whereas with Bitcoin, there's no competition.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said that, well, it's the same guy. I think he said SpaceX is high risk, high reward. If you can't handle the heat, buy bonds. I mean, yeah, it's high risk. There's no high reward, though, because you don't understand what are you like? What are you even investing in? What like that? I think that's the biggest disconnect. And I really miss Preston Pish in Bitcoin. I wish that he would come back one day because he was so adamant on this in the sense of like, why are you investing your capital in a company? The point of it is so that one day you can get paid back your capital. But that's not how the world works now. It's all just speculating who can rug who first. And I think that that's just such a stupid game. I don't want any sort of part of it. And that's why I'm in Bitcoin, is so I don't have to deal with that bullshit because it doesn't make any sense. How are you ever going to get paid back for SpaceX? What are they going to do? How are they going to make money so that they can pay their investors back? There's no long-term thing of that. It's like, well, over time, it's going to be worth more. Yeah, because they're going to print and ship more fiat units. That's why it's going to be worth more in 10 years from now. But we're comparing two different things. And I think that, you got a choice right now as a capital allocator in your family is you can buy a house, you can buy SpaceX shares, you can buy Bitcoin. To me, everything except Bitcoin is extremely overvalued because of the misunderstanding around Bitcoin. So if I wait 20 years, I might be able to buy a house for $1 million sats. Today, I can buy a house for $500,000 or I can buy 7 Bitcoin. So the whole disconnect right now is just simply misunderstanding by the market, people doing dumb things and just hoping that their thing goes up without actually understanding what's going on there. And I'm just tired of it. I just don't want any sort of part of it. So I will never be a SpaceX holder. stacking sats is the easiest way because everything's going to be priced in those units in the future, and it's all going to go down forever, including SpaceX shares.
I think that a lot of people, that we have some people in the chat that are investing in SpaceX. It's fine, you know, it's your money. Burn it as rocket fuel if you want. The way I see it is, why did SpaceX IPO right now? Why is Anthropic and OpenAI planning their IPOs this year? It's because there is a bubble inflating. Doesn't mean bubbles have to pop. Sometimes they just deflate, right? And then reinflate, deflate, right? But there is a lot of capital interested in AI right now. It's what all the biggest stocks are associated with. So this is kind of like, I'm not saying the same thing's going to happen, but this is like IPOing an internet company in 1999. And you probably, like, Google did well IPOing in 2004 after all of that had already happened. You don't really want to, like, IPOing at the top is just to squeeze out a little bit of extra money, right? Like, it's where you can get the hottest valuation so that you can exit your insider positions. That's what this looks like to me. Like, again, SpaceX probably will be a great company in 10 plus years, but right now there's a reason that they IPO'd right now, because there's a huge amount of money that will buy the shares from the insiders. That's what I see happening.
And I think it's very important, because some people here say, oh, SpaceX is high reward, and some people say, oh, it will crash, the rocket will crash. And I think the middle is kind of true. So I think SpaceX will probably be an amazing company in 10 years. I just think if you measure SpaceX in the next 10 years in fiat, it will outperform fiat. Like, it will have a great return. It will
100%.
probably even grow nicely. If you measure the same thing in Bitcoin, if you measure SpaceX over the next 10 years from this moment onward in Bitcoin, you're going to lose money.
Exactly.
And so,
that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
Yeah. And so, like, that's why it's almost hard for me to discuss it, because, like, I'm a fan of Elon, I'm a fan of SpaceX. I would love to invest, but I look at the valuation, I look what they're doing, I look at the risk, and I'm like, I cannot give them a single cent. Like, I cannot invest money there, because I know it will be better treated in Bitcoin over the next 10 years. And so it's kind of, I know it's it's almost hard for me to say that, but it's like not giving a son that you love the money because you want him to grow up on his own and, like, to do his own shit. But it's almost like I want to give SpaceX money, and I would love for that to not be a $3 trillion company, but I don't know, a $50 billion company, like where strategy is now sitting at. If SpaceX would be, I don't know, like $100 billion company even, or like a 200 billion company, I would be an investor. I would have bought that IPO, because I'm like, they have a shot at being a top 5 company. I mean, they are already a top 5 company right now. And so that's just a massive capital rotation into SpaceX. And if you also look at historical IPOs, most of them are not doing good in the first 1 year. Most IPOs are actually down in the first 8 to 11 months. So IPOs in general are usually not a good idea to buy. It's usually better to wait a little bit, see how they're doing in the market. So I usually stay away from IPOs, just as a general rule. But that in specific, it's just so, as it has a very high valuation. And I could see a world where SpaceX falls 80%, 70%, 60%. And then I'm like, that looks juicy, and I might actually buy some. But at that valuation, I denominate my wealth in Bitcoin. It's like, I'm not going to touch it.
It's pretty simple. I mean, SpaceX right now, the market cap is valued at more than twice as much as the market cap of Bitcoin. Is that going to be something that continues to happen in the future?
So stupid.
The answer is no. Like, the answer is no. George started this whole thing off by basically talking about Bitcoin is the thing that ends up denominating everything else. And so it just it ends up not making sense. Like, those two things cannot be the same. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, this is only a thing that can happen right now in this moment in time. And we will trend in the direction of Bitcoin being the underlying denominator of everything else. So the value of it has to go up because of that, because everything else gets denominated in Bitcoin.
I find it really crazy that the thing that Robin just pulled up with Elon Musk being worth $1.4 trillion. So he's worth $1.4 trillion. He's worth more than the Bitcoin network.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, like if you think about this, he can't get all the Bitcoin, even though he's worth more than the network. Because his value, the value that's attributed to him is inflated massively. He wouldn't be able to buy all 21 million Bitcoin. He wouldn't, like, there's no way for him to do it because there are people out there who just wouldn't sell it to him. So the value of Bitcoin is going to massively outperform Elon Musk over the next like 10, 20, 30 years. Like you're going to see. So the way that I actually want to put a new metric on the top of my videos, Elon Musk's per Bitcoin. Right now it's like 1 point, what is it? Like 1.1 Elon, no. It's like 0.87 Elon Musk's per Bitcoin right now, 0.9. At some point, it's going to be 1 Elon Musk per Bitcoin. Then it's going to be 10 Elon Musks per Bitcoin. Then it's going to be 100. It's going to keep going up because keep in mind that there's a lot of minds out there that can innovate like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is going to pass away at some point, right? And anybody can replace him. There can be other people in other industries who do what he does. So when you value the global money, like this is the only money that's going to exist that anybody in the world can use, nobody can control. If you value that, if you value Elon Musk in terms of that money, he should be worth a fraction of whatever Bitcoin is worth. And that's not reflected in the real world. And maybe that goes back to our title. Bitcoin held 59K while smart money bought the panic. Dumb money was selling. I read the stat where it said something like it was only $15 billion of outflows that brought Bitcoin to this price. It's because the price is set at the margin and there's a very small group of people who's selling and there are people on the other side who are buying. But right now, the people who are supposed to be buying, the tourists, they're fearful and they don't want to buy. The price is even where it is today because of us, because the people in this chat, the people who have been in Bitcoin and they're watching this stream in the middle of a bear market. That's crazy. Most people are gone. Like they're out, they forgot about Bitcoin.
100%. Couldn't agree more. And it's really tough because, I mean, we need to reach the tourists and tell them, hey, don't buy at 125 when we get back up there, which is when you're going to want to buy now. Like start stacking, like I need to get a megaphone and just stand at like the tallest building in my town and just start stacking Bitcoin. Like you are out of your mind to not see this as an unbelievable opportunity. Like this is all the sayings. This is blood in the streets. This is be greedy when others are fearful. Now is the time. Like, yes, Bitcoin is, and you have to caveat that with, of course, Bitcoin could go down, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We have this chance of opportunity. I don't know when the window's closing, but we have this opportunity to stack at unbelievable prices. Yeah. This is really generational wealth is staring you right in the face, and people are speculating on a company that says it's going to go to Mars. Like you're out of your mind. Like just it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like going to Mars, as much Bitcoin as you can right now.
Even going to Mars, it's speculative. How do we know we're ever going to be able to go there? Right?
And how do you make money off of? What are you going to charge people an admission ticket of like $250 to go on there? Okay, good luck paying off your $3 trillion valuation. Like it's just stupid. It doesn't make any sense.
And the price has to go like way high. In the beginning, it's probably gonna be like $1 million per person or $10 million per person. And how are you gonna make your money back? If the profit margin is big enough, there's gonna be some other company that just steals everything that SpaceX does, and they're gonna create their own version.
Exactly. And that's the whole point, is like everything else that exists on this planet can be made to meet demand. Everything. Every single thing can be made to meet demand. And we're getting better and better at making those things, except for one thing, Bitcoin. And we were just talking about Google, how it's gone up since its IPO in terms of, it went from 123 billion to whatever it's worth now. Yes, in fiat terms. But look at it in Bitcoin terms. It just keeps going down. And this is the case for everything, because you can make more of everything to meet demand except for Bitcoin. And I think that until you understand that, then Bitcoin doesn't look like a great investment. And you might like Elon, you might like space, you might like AI and all this other stuff. But until you can actually understand that everything else can be made to infinity and it's going to be easier and easier to make over time, except for one thing, which is Bitcoin, and it's going to reprice everything. I might buy some SpaceX shares when they're 500 sats per share, and they will be one day. But at that point, why would I want to? That's the whole discrepancy here. It's just a mismatch, a misunderstanding of what's going on here. And it's just dummies who are buying things like SpaceX instead of holding Bitcoin right now. Because again, it is going to be at some point 500 sats for one share. It's math. And we started the whole conversation here with Jeff Booth, but that's what this whole thing is. He says, as long as Bitcoin stays decentralized and secure, then that's going to play out. And it is. And nobody can argue that. I don't know if it'll stay decentralized. I don't know if it'll stay secure. But if it does, that's what's going to play out over time. And so I understand that. And that's why I wouldn't never go near SpaceX at any valuation right now, because it's a company. It's a totally different thing than Bitcoin is.
Based on that chart that you just showed, Robin, you showed that the Bitcoin, or sorry, Google in terms of Bitcoin only goes down. And every time it does go up, it eventually comes back down. So why do people think that this time is different?
The trend. It's the trend.
Right. Why do people think this time is different? Like, if anything, it went to 0.002 Bitcoin at one point, and now it's at 0.00 maybe 7 Bitcoin per share.
0.005. So 500,000 sats where it started
so
at
500,000 sats. At some point, you're going to be selling your Google shares for 50,000 sats. Then you're going to be selling your Google shares for 25,000 sats. Then 5,000 sats. And it'll keep dropping because Bitcoin is finite. You can have other companies. People can invest in, like, if somebody thinks that Google is expensive, they can buy another stock. If they think Bitcoin is expensive, tough luck.
Yep. Yeah. Looking at that chart too, like I had a bunch of altcoins and I literally priced them in Bitcoin and waited for a rally and rotated out into Bitcoin. So what you can see there, if you were thinking the same way with that chart, you would say, okay, well, where's a little rally here and I can rotate back into Bitcoin? That's what people should be thinking. Instead, they're celebrating the rally. They're thinking that this thing's going higher, and it's not. It's if priced in Bitcoin, it will go down over time. The trend will continue. And you should just see that rally for what it is, as an opportunity to rotate into a better asset for longer term wealth preservation.
Exactly. Agreed. And most people, like, what people are doing is just based on my experience, most people aren't buying the bottom, they're buying the top. A lot of people are buying the S&P 500 now after it's above its 200-week or 200-day moving average, and they're going to sell when it drops back down to its 200-week moving average. Right? That's just absolutely crazy. Like, Bitcoin and the S&P 500 are doing the exact opposite right now. But people are buying the S&P 500. They're focused on the S&P 500 because that's just what tourists do.
Yep. Yeah, and it's going to happen regardless. Like, I talked about getting the megaphone out, and occasionally, a sheep will become a shepherd. We all kind of go through look at these crazy, like, is it going to come down? Like, when we're first early into these things, maybe it will, maybe this, like, hyper Bitcoinization, all this kind of stuff. Like, we've all been sort of guilty of that to some degree, to some level. But the ones that don't, that go deeper into understanding the asset they hold, end up not losing it and end up realizing that these are times to stack. And this is, like, Bitcoin is built up of individuals. The Bitcoin network is a bunch of individuals realizing that they need more sats at the end of the day, right? Be a net accumulator of sats. And so the tourists, they come and go, but some of them stick around. And the same thing's going to happen again. Like, Bitcoin's going to go to 150. Everyone's going to think it's going to go to 200, and it'll crash back down to 100,000 or whatever, right? It's just, this is constantly going to happen, like, almost forever, until Bitcoin becomes the denominator. And it's like, oh, you don't trade Bitcoin. Like, you just, now I'm trading SpaceX because their balance sheet is Bitcoin and they're doing profitable things and acquiring Bitcoin. And I'm going to invest in this thing because it can acquire more Bitcoin, right? Like, That's what investing is. Like, replace free cash flow with free sat flow, and you have the same metric. Like, eventually it's going to make sense to invest in companies again, because they're denominating themselves in Bitcoin. And until then, you just buy the underlying asset.
Yeah. Something crazy here is that we see higher highs and higher lows all the time. But you can see every time Bitcoin hits the blue, I mean, this time it hit it twice. This time it basically stayed under for a little while. This time it hit it twice. Who knows? Maybe it hits the blue twice. Maybe it goes. So the blue is basically the multiple of the line at the bottom. The blue means that's 1 times. This is a great time to buy. A lot of people think that, oh, it's going to go lower. It's going to go way lower than here. I think this is an excellent time to buy, because if you think about it, after it hits the blue, usually within a few months, it's back up. Right here, it hit 3,300, and a year later, it was at 7,100. Here, it hit 5,800. Even this blue is much higher than this one. So 5,800, and a year later, it's all the way up at 36,000. Here, it hit 16,000, and a year later, it's all the way up at 37,000. Every single time it hits the blue within a year, it goes up way higher. So why wouldn't you want to buy? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It always goes higher over time. If you're trying to make a decision to buy an asset, to just hold on to something, this is probably going to be the best asset that you can buy. It just shows you how cheap Bitcoin is. Exactly what Philip said. He said the blue indicates Bitcoin was very cheap. Exactly what's happening right now. If we zoom in, we can see it's blue.
Mm-hmm.
This is the time to buy.
Yeah, and you're not going to time the bottom. This was the conversation I had in the chat with Wyatt. You might be thinking this. Your friends might be saying, "Oh, I'm going to wait till it gets to 30." I heard some guy said it was going to get to 48,000. I'm going to buy then. You don't wait for those prices. You dollar cost average in. You begin your dollar cost average when the price is in blue. You increase it. You have some strategy around that. It's not about creating a one limit order at a very specific price, because if it doesn't hit that, you're screwed. You're screwed if it doesn't hit that. So you just begin buying and increasing your buys when it's in the blue. This is a simple strategy that has provided a huge amount of upside. Back testing it and forward testing it too will continue to work. Just buying when it's in blue, having a dollar cost average regardless. If you have income, if you have extra assets at the end of the day, extra cash at the end of the day, but increasing that dollar cost average when the price is good and when the metrics look good. And right now they look really good.
Yeah. All right, guys, I gotta head out. Great talk.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
Okay, you want to keep going for a while, Robin?
I think we can just end it on the point of look at I came always from an investing standpoint. I always look at what is the total addressable market of something, and I come from the stock world, and you kind of have to ask yourself this question: if you invest in a stock, where can this potentially go? And that's just the one thing that I want to have people take away from it. SpaceX has great potential, but it doesn't have this 100x. People treat it just because it's the IPO as a startup, but a $3 trillion market cap is a whole different thing. And then just comparing that, maybe we can bring that up because I think it's a very important distinguishing. Bitcoin gives you on the first kind of station, the number go up, the wealth aspect of Bitcoin. But the second thing, the foundation, which I find more fascinating, is the freedom thing, the freedom that you get with Bitcoin, holding it in self-custody, moving it around as you want. And so you don't have that at all with SpaceX. And so you have on the first one, if you just look for number co-op technology, just look for the wealth aspect, SpaceX has a very, very, very low likelihood in the next 10 years to outperform Bitcoin on that. I would say 99.9% likelihood that Bitcoin will outperform SpaceX over a long period of time, like 10 years. Then the second thing is freedom. SpaceX does not have any of that. So like you cannot do anything with that. And then the third thing, the community aspect of Bitcoin, the thing that I absolutely love in Bitcoin, you have a little bit of that in SpaceX. I guess there's a community, there's probably like passionate people around it, but it's very different to the Bitcoin. There's no SpaceX conferences and 30 of them all around the world organized in a decentralized way. So I just want to end that in like, you cannot compare SpaceX to Bitcoin. I get why people still do it. And if you want to compare them just as an investment vehicle, you still should not do that because, like my only case in you now putting into SpaceX is in supporting the mission. If that's what you do, like go ahead. Like if you love SpaceX and you want to support the mission, like I don't think SpaceX needs it, but if you want to do that, like absolutely, 100% do that.
It's foolish.
It's foolish, but like it's everyone's choice to do with the money as they burn it as you want.
That's similar to me. Well, I guess kind of in a way. But like that's like me for the last 5 years. Every time Tiger Woods would go in a golf tournament, I would bet on him because he's my favorite golfer. But the odds of him actually winning the tournament were, terrible. And there was no chance that he was actually going to win a golf tournament. But because I had an emotional attachment to him, I wanted him to win. So I put some money on him winning. But it was foolish. It's the same kind of thing. Like there was no chance that he was going to win when he was in the state that he in and how much he can practice and whatever it is. But it was just stupid. And I think it's the same kind of thing for people who are investing in SpaceX because they like Elon or because they made some money off of Tesla. These are different things. And you have to go back to what is their value proposition as a shareholder? What is the value proposition? And what do? Is it possible that another company could come along and do what SpaceX is doing, but do it better? I would say, yeah. Like I would say there's never been a time in history where you could say that whatever they're doing, somebody could take that and copy it, right? With Claude Code, with all these different advancements in AI. Hell, X.AI might even help a company develop something that does it better than Starlink. That's kind of where we are right now. But you cannot find something like Bitcoin where it was a fair launch. You cannot create more of the tokens. There's a global network. It's the best form of collateral. You cannot create another Bitcoin. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say. You can create another SpaceX, and as time goes on, there probably will be a better internet than Starlink. There probably will be, but in 1,000 years from now, I think we're going to be pricing things in satoshis. We're going to look back and say, yeah, nothing was going to replace Bitcoin. Hell, nothing is even trying to replace Bitcoin right now. That's the crazy part, Robin. It was like a couple of years ago, Ethereum was like, we're the new sound money. And people were like, oh yeah, maybe you are. I'm going to just diversify a little bit in case that turns out to be the case. Now there's absolutely no competition for Bitcoin. The only thing holding back Bitcoin from its true potential is people understanding what it is, understanding the value prop of being able to send somebody across the world satoshis without any third-party involvement on a Sunday morning. What's the value in that? Pretty high, I would say. What's the value of being able to protect all of your wealth without any physical constraints because you can store the keys in different locations? What's the value prop of that? Pretty high, I would say. So you start looking at like what makes Bitcoin so unique. There will not be another Bitcoin. There could be another Starlink or another SpaceX. There could be, there probably will be. That's how the world works. But we're talking about two different things here. And I think that that's so important to understand. And just most people don't. And I guess that's the real opportunity here. And the variance is because the simple misunderstanding of why people are actually holding Bitcoin, aside from like a speculative thing.
And because I don't know how to say his name, Astor Star or something like that, brought up like, NVIDIA outperformed Bitcoin over the last 10 years. I don't know if that's true, but it could be true.
It's not.
And like, even if it's true, he compares it then to SpaceX. And I want to drive that point really home because I think it's a very important one to say. there can be a single investment that outperforms Bitcoin. I'm not saying that there isn't a single investment that outperforms Bitcoin over time. If you start a company right now and you're the CEO of that company and you drive a massive value to that company and you make it big, the ownership that you own in that company has a potential of outperforming the Bitcoin in the next 10 years. Like you can do that. And small companies that have now a market cap of a few $1 billion can become $1 trillion enterprises and can outperform Bitcoin. So my argument is not that a single company can't outperform Bitcoin. This will always be the case. But SpaceX is now number 5 company on planet Earth. What room to grow does it have? Where can it grow? NVIDIA was 10 years ago tiny. There was like hundreds of companies bigger than NVIDIA. And 10 years ago, yes, it would have been an amazing investment. But not when it's the second biggest, the first biggest, the third biggest, or the 5th biggest company on planet Earth. I'm not saying don't invest in a company that you believe in that can potentially 100x. I'm saying SpaceX has a lot of risks and a very low likelihood to do 100x because they're already on the top 5 companies on planet Earth. I don't know why this point is so hard to understand. It's just like it's a number. If you are the 5th, if I'm the 5th biggest YouTuber on the platform, I can still get to number 1, but how much bigger is that really? And I'm now reliant on YouTube, the platform, to grow. How much can YouTube, the platform, grow? So like I have now the cap of the market. And the same with SpaceX. SpaceX can jump from the number 5 company to number 1 company, but then it's reliant on the equity markets in general to grow. And then you're betting a big thing. Like there's a reason why there's a lot of money in real estate, in gold, and all of those things. And I think that money will actually flow to Bitcoin and not to like individual stocks. I think actually like the equity market will be demonetized to a certain degree. I think the equity market might actually shrink. And so
everything's going to go down in Bitcoin terms.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's really where you have to draw the line in this whole conversation is you're measuring things. Everybody's measuring things in fiat. And you know, whether it's 4 years, 10 years, 5 years, you can always cherry pick things that kind of fit your narrative. But I guarantee you, again, you look out 20, 30, 40, 50 years, nothing's going to outperform Bitcoin. And it's not even outperforming it. Bitcoin is just repricing things. And what causes Bitcoin to reprice things is people understanding what this asset is. That's whenever you hear somebody say Bitcoin is repricing things, that just means that there's more people on this planet who have figured out the value of Bitcoin. What makes Bitcoin so valuable? And Robin, I liked how you kind of categorized 3 things there: the investment, the freedom, and the community aspect of things. Yeah, certain companies might outperform Bitcoin in a year or 2 years, 5 years, even 10 years. But that's not the point. That's a very small component of the whole thing here. Because look out 50 years. And when you stop measuring things in fiat and look at them through a Bitcoin lens, nothing is going to compete against Bitcoin because Bitcoin is the only thing that cannot be created more of if more people want to hold that thing. If more people want SpaceX shares, they'll just issue more shares. If more people want Starlink, they'll put more satellites out in space. Everything else can be created to infinity to meet the demand except for one thing, which is Bitcoin. That's the whole difference here. Plus, you can't, the freedom aspect, I think is really worth dialing in on because you can't sell your Starlink share or freaking SpaceX share on a Sunday morning. You can't send a fraction of your SpaceX share to a friend on Sunday morning. You can't leave the country with your portfolio and just completely uproot your life with SpaceX shares. You have to cash those out and pay tax on those. You can hold 12 words in your head and go wherever the hell you want to go. You can't do that with anything else except Bitcoin. And unless you value that, then yeah, you can invest in whatever company you want to if you think that you can make more fiat by holding that. but it's just a totally different conversation. And the reason why I get so fired up about this is that's the whole reason why Bitcoin is so cheap right now, is because nobody understands the conversation that we're having right now. And when they do, Bitcoin will further reprice everything because there's more people wanting the same amount of scarce units. And that's what drives up the purchasing power of these Satoshis and the value of these Satoshis. And that's not the case with NVIDIA, Tesla, Starlink, any other company. NVIDIA, nothing. It's just not the case. So it's just so different to me. And it's hard to really explain, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, and it's fair to have stocks. Like I wanna, because I come from the stock world, I kind of like the stock picking. I like looking into companies. I'm weird. I'm one of the few probably Bitcoin self-custody maxis that also like stocks. I think there are not that many of me out there. But it's actually really fun to do that. But it's a very different game. Like Bitcoin is savings, and with stocks you have to keep up. If you invest in a stock and don't watch the earnings calls, don't read the 10Ks, 10Qs, all of those, like it's a lot of work. I've never held more than 3 to 4 stocks at one time, because you have to keep up with them. Like, especially have your job. Like if you do it full time, okay, maybe you can hold like up to 10, but you have to keep up with the news cycle. You have to keep up with the CEO interviews. You have to keep up with the management team. You have to do all that work. It's an
so many variables.
Job. There's so many variables, and you have to, and you are investing in the future and betting on the future. And so you better do your homework, because a company can have the right vision, be in the right spot, and then a competitor comes in and just demolish the whole. We have seen it in the past with so many companies. I mean, what was the company before Facebook? MySpace. I mean, or like Nokia before iPhone. Like we've seen it over and over and over again. Yeah, Blockbuster. Like it's think about the 10 biggest companies right now versus 20 years ago. A whole different game. And then go another 20 years ago. Companies rotate. As long as the market, now I'm sounding like Jeff Booth, as long as the market is free, there will always be new competitors that have an edge and will outperform other ones. And so I love picking stocks. I love doing that game. I keep it to a maximum of 20% of my net worth. I like 80% in Bitcoin and self-custody. And currently, I don't do anything outside of Bitcoin, actually. I don't have any AI stocks, anything like that, just because I don't have the time to look into them. And like if you do that, go for it. It might be an actual amazing play. But buying NVIDIA when it's number 1, buying SpaceX when it's number 5, buying Apple when it's number 2 will give you very mediocre returns that might outperform inflation a little bit, might not, I don't know, but it's not the home run. And I'm chasing home runs. I don't know about you, but like I want to have a home run. If I want to hit, I want to hit big. Like I don't want to like throw the ball like that. I want to like hit it and like go out of the stadium kind of thing.
I also want freedom too, though, right? And that's to me is the biggest part of it, is like there's nothing that compares to Bitcoin. And you talk about competitors here. You talk about Blockbuster to Netflix. What's going to be the next Netflix? Is anybody still here holding shares in Sears? Or what's the other one? Walco? I don't know. Like Sears was a major company here in Canada. They would actually send out a Christmas book every year that you could go through all the products. And they were a very successful company. But now you can't even find a Sears, because that's what happens. That's what happens is things evolve here. Kmart, exactly. There's some really good comments here, actually. There's what was the other one? Friendster, Sprint, Singular. You think of all these things. You mentioned MySpace, but that's just how Toys R Us. That's the competition there. And I guess what we're trying to say here is that there is no competition to Bitcoin.
100%. That I think that's the major thing. And I know it's hard because now there's this fancy new thing coming on with SpaceX and Anthropic and OpenAI, and it's the fancy new thing. but buy those things when it crashes 80% down, and not when it's at the pinnacle, like if it's at the top. And so even if you want to buy that, like I don't do that, and like I don't recommend that. But if you really want to do that, like buy it when it's crashing, when it's when it's going down. The same with Bitcoin. I mean, I love DCA, but if you know Bitcoin, how it behaves, as Rashad showed us, there's the blue lines, there's the red lines, and there's a way better time at those blue lines as the time right now. But the bad thing is everyone is always focused on the winners at that moment. So when SpaceX and all the big companies are very big, everyone is just with the attention there, and nobody's there where the value is actually to be had. And again, that's literally just talking about the wealth, the number grab technology, disregarding for a moment the community and the freedom aspect of it, because obviously you don't get that outside of Bitcoin. And so looking at all of, I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but like looking at all those things, like why would you now go into an overvalued IPO that has no profits right now, that is number 5 of on planet Earth, versus an asset that is kicking ass and is currently super, super low when you look at the history? So it's like, it's very clear for me what to do. And hey, maybe we sit here in, let's say, 18 months and Bitcoin is at 250K and SpaceX went down 80%. I might actually consider like buying some SpaceX. I'm like, like Bitcoin looks a little bit higher right now, and SpaceX looks like a little bit better. I usually don't play those games.
Would you sell some of your Bitcoin that's in self-custody right now and do that?
No, I probably wouldn't. I couldn't do that. But there's income, like I also with strategy. I was thinking about that also with my cash balance. I think we talked about it on my podcast. I wanted to get cash reserves, just like as a fiat thing, as an emergency fund. I couldn't get it over my heart to sell Bitcoin to get cash. And exactly. So what I did, I kept my Bitcoin, and with the income that I got, instead of buying Bitcoin, I gave it on the cash, and I bought some strategy with it. And so the same way I would probably do it if like Bitcoin is now 250K and SpaceX would IPO at way lower valuations as it is right now. Maybe I'm buying some just for the fun of it, if it's a very small like part of my portfolio. So yeah, I think I've said it all. I repeat myself now.
Well, I think that Queen in the chat, she said, I have a buy order at 75 for SpaceX. And for me, I might have a buy order of SpaceX at like 750 sats. Like that's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't make any sort of sense to me to be buying. It's different, I guess, Robin. Like you're right in the sense of you have to look at the variables involved here. Bitcoin's down 50% in fiat terms in the last 6 months. So to me, that's just a screaming buy signal right there. If you believe in this asset and it's 50% off, you should be buying that. SpaceX, same kind of thing. If it fell and you wanted to swap some of your allocations, but again, you have to ask yourself the question, am I willing to take out my cold card or take out the sats in my multi-sig, transfer it over, deal with the headache of that, the spread, the tax implications if you're somebody who pays taxes, and then buy that? No. Like I'm just not going to do that ever. Maybe I will take some of my strategy shares if I think strategy is over, if it's hot, I guess you'd say, and SpaceX is cold. That's a decent idea. But like for me, I'm never taking those sats out of self-custody to buy something else. I'm just not, unless it's like a once in a lifetime trip and I have no other money. That would be one of the things where I would actually take some of those sats out of self-custody to buy. But for investments, there's nothing that even compares to owning a Bitcoin in self-custody, and there never will be. And that's the whole thing, is like at some point, I shouldn't say never, but from what I see here, Bitcoin has zero competition in terms of the value proposition compared to anything else. And so I'm not going to risk that of losing some of my ownership of the Bitcoin network just on some speculation that CNN Jim Cramer's talking about. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think that's a great way to wrap it up. Before we wrap it up, any last thoughts you want to add?
Oh man. Yeah, I think that just getting back from Prague, I get to actually hang out with Robin a little bit in Prague. I wish I would have got to see him more, but I know it's crazy. There's a lot going on. I was working at our launch for Citadel Vault there. You were doing some podcasts and stuff. You were on stage, the main stage at BTC Prague. So busy, but still got to chat for a while and hang out in person, which is nice. But like, that's the whole thing for me, is like, there's so many black pills. You can look wherever you want to in the world right now and find a reason to be fearful and anxious and concerned about the future. There's so many reasons for that. But you spend some time with Bitcoiners in person and you see what's being built in this space. And I think it would be impossible to be bearish, regardless of what the price of Bitcoin is. What's being built here? You know, you see things like in the UK, they're trying to say that 16-year-olds can't use social media anymore. That's a centralized system. That's a fiat system. That's what we're trying to move away from. So you can take all your money and put it into the stockbrokers and buy SpaceX and all this shit. You're still supporting that system. You're giving that system more energy. And for me, where I'm at right now is I want to take all my energy out of that system, SpaceX, NVIDIA, all that shit, put it into Bitcoin. And when you talk to Bitcoiners, you become very hopeful for the future, because you realize that, hey, there's more people like me. Even though I don't see them every day of my life, I know that there's other people who want the same kind of future that I want. And I know for a fact that I will never get the future that I want holding SpaceX shares. I think that I can get the future that I want holding my Bitcoin in self-custody. That's the difference for me. So even if this thing flatlined for the next 20 years, you still can't take it away from me. Somebody could easily freeze my stock account tomorrow. If I say something on BTC Mastermind or on my channel, they could freeze my account and I can't access that capital anymore. I'm at the subject of their control. With my sats, I could say wherever the hell I want to. They cannot take the sats that I have in self-custody. And that's a huge difference. That's like everything to me. Doesn't matter about the projections or the whatever analysts say it's going to do or how hot or cold it is right now. It's the fact that nobody can touch that. And based on where we are in the world right now, I think that that's the most important thing, is that I can say what I want without any sort of fear of my bank account being frozen, my stock account being frozen, my who knows what. They cannot take the sats in my cold storage. And one way to ensure that they'll never get it is to, take me out. So that's what makes Bitcoin unique. Hard to understand, but that's the value prop of Bitcoin.
100%. I love it. Joe, it was an honor. Also, Rashad, Forrest, was really cool to have you guys on again. It was really nice. For the few people that haven't heard our message, go to the main channel, BTC Mastermind. It's now easily findable on YouTube.
It is, yes. It was very difficult for a while.
Yeah, for a while. It's like BTC Mastermind, and you had to find it down there. Thank you so much for showing up. And I think we just leave it at that. Buy Bitcoin, buy it in self-custody, figure out why, and not just trust us, verify. Curious people will be proven right. Curious people will benefit. And really looking forward to the future. Man, I can't wait to see all the things that we're doing now in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We're putting our money where our mouth is, or our mouth where our money is. I don't know in what direction is better.
And our time, and energy.
Our time, our energy here. So thank you so much for everyone showing up. We will be back next Tuesday. Cheers.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks, everybody.
Might take me some while to hit that button because my browser is, now it's going.